I still remember the day my parents drove away. I was 7 years old, standing on Grandpa's porch with my small pink backpack, watching their car disappear down the dusty road. Mom had said they'd be back in a few weeks. That was 15 years ago. My name is Emma, and this is the story of how I learned that family isn't always about blood, and sometimes the people who abandon you end up teaching you the most important lesson of all. That morning started like any other summer day. I was playing with my dolls in the living room when I heard raised voices coming from the kitchen. My parents were arguing again. It had become so common that I barely looked up anymore. "We can't do this anymore, Richard." My mother's voice was sharp, desperate. "What choice do we have? We're drowning in debt. There has to be another way." I crept closer to the doorway, my 7-year-old heart already sensing that something was different this time. The air felt heavier, charged with a tension I couldn't name but could definitely feel. "Your father will take care of her," Dad said. "It's temporary, just until we get back on our feet." My stomach twisted. Were they talking about me? "She's our daughter, Richard, our responsibility. And we're failing at it. Look at us, Jennifer. We can barely afford to feed ourselves, let alone her. Your father has the space, the resources. She'll be better off." Better off. Those words would echo in my mind for years to come. Within 2 hours, they had packed my things. Mom moved through my room like a robot, folding clothes, stuffing my favorite stuffed animals into a duffel bag. I kept asking questions, but she wouldn't look at me. "Mommy, where are we going?" "You're going to stay with Grandpa for a little while, sweetheart." "Are you coming too?" Silence. "Mommy?" She finally turned to face me, and I saw tears streaming down her cheeks. "We'll come get you soon, baby. I promise." That promise was the first of many lies. Grandpa lived 40 minutes outside the city in a small town called Millbrook. His house was old but sturdy, with a wraparound porch and a big backyard that backed up to a forest. I'd visited a few times before, but never stayed overnight. When we pulled up, Grandpa was already on the porch, his weathered face unreadable. He was a tall man, thin but strong, with gray hair and kind blue eyes that crinkled when he smiled. But he wasn't smiling that day. The conversation between him and my parents was tense and brief. I caught fragments. "This isn't right. We don't have a choice, Dad. There's always a choice. Just for a few months, please." Grandpa looked down at me, then back at my father. Something passed between them, some understanding I was too young to grasp. Finally, he nodded. My parents hugged me goodbye on that porch. Mom held me so tight I could barely breathe, and when she finally let go, she ran to the car without looking back. Dad knelt down, his hands on my shoulders. "You be good for Grandpa, okay? We'll see you real soon." "When?" "Soon, Emma. Real soon." I watched their car until it was just a speck on the horizon, then turned to face my grandfather. He was watching me with an expression I couldn't read. "Well then," he said quietly, "let's get you settled in." The first few weeks were the hardest. I cried myself to sleep every night, clutching the phone Mom had promised to call on. But the calls never came. Not that week, not that month. Grandpa didn't try to fill the silence with false promises or cheerful distractions. He simply let me grieve in my own way, while making sure I had what I needed. Breakfast every morning at 7, lunch at noon, dinner at 6. Structure, routine, safety. Slowly, painfully, I began to adjust. Grandpa wasn't a man of many words, but his actions spoke volumes. He enrolled me in the local elementary school, bought me new clothes when mine got too small, learned to braid my hair even though his thick fingers fumbled with the strands. He packed my lunches, helped with homework, attended every parent-teacher conference. "Where are Emma's parents?" teachers would ask. "Not in the picture," Grandpa would say firmly, and that would be the end of it. I asked about them constantly those first few months. When were they coming? Why hadn't they called? Did they forget about me? Grandpa's answer was always the same. I don't know, Emma girl, but you're here now, and that's what matters. By the time I turned 8, I'd stopped asking. Life with Grandpa fell into a rhythm. He worked as a handyman around town, fixing things for people who couldn't afford expensive contractors. I'd often go with him after school, handing him tools, learning the names of things: wrench, screwdriver, level, pliers. Always measure twice, cut once, he'd say. Applies to life too. Think before you act. He taught me how to fish in the creek behind the house, how to identify different types of trees, how to grow vegetables in the garden. On rainy days, we'd sit on the porch and he'd tell me stories about his life, about his time in the Navy, about meeting my grandmother who had passed away before I was born, about raising my mother in this very house. She was a wild one, he'd say with a sad smile, always dreaming of something bigger than this town could offer. I wanted to ask more, to understand why she had left me, but I was afraid of the answers. School was difficult at first. The other kids had questions I didn't want to answer. Where are your parents? Why do you live with your grandpa? Their curiosity felt like tiny knives, each question a reminder of what I'd lost. But I found refuge in books. The school library became my sanctuary, a place where I could disappear into other worlds, other lives. Mrs. Patterson, the librarian, noticed my constant presence and took me under her wing. "You've got a gift for reading," she told me one afternoon when I was 9. "Your comprehension is years ahead of your grade level." "I just like stories," I said shyly. "Stories are how we make sense of the world," she replied. "They teach us we're not alone in our struggles." She began recommending books to me, challenging ones that made me think. We discussed them during my lunch periods, just the two of us in the quiet library. Those conversations became one of the highlights of my week. Mrs. Patterson wasn't just a librarian. She became a mentor, a friend, someone who saw me beyond the abandoned kid everyone whispered about. She introduced me to authors I'd never heard of, challenged me to think critically about themes and characters, encouraged me to write my own stories. "You have a voice," she told me when I showed her a short story I'd written about a girl who lived in a treehouse. "Don't be afraid to use it." Writing became another escape, another way to process the confusion and hurt I carried. I filled notebook after notebook with stories about families who stayed together, about parents who kept their promises, about kids who were wanted and loved unconditionally. Fantasy, maybe, but it helped. 3rd grade turned into 4th. I made a friend, finally. Her name was Maya, and she'd just moved to town with her single mom. We bonded over being different. She was the new kid with the accent and the thrift store clothes. I was the kid with no parents and the elderly guardian. "My dad left when I was a baby," Maya told me during recess one day. "We were sitting under the big oak tree, away from the other kids. Mom says he couldn't handle the responsibility." "My parents left me here," I admitted. "Said they'd come back." "They didn't. That sucks." "Yeah." We sat in silence for a while, then Maya pulled out a pack of trading cards. "Want to play?" Just like that, I had a friend. Someone who understood what it felt like to be forgotten by a parent. Someone who didn't ask uncomfortable questions or look at me with pity. Maya and I became inseparable. We had sleepovers at each other's houses, shared lunches, created elaborate imaginary worlds during recess. Her mom, Christina, was warm and welcoming, always making sure I felt included in their little family. "Emma's always welcome here," she told Grandpa during one pickup. "She's a good influence on Maya." Grandpa smiled. "Maya's good for Emma, too." First real friend she's made. Having Maya in my life made school bearable. We protected each other from the mean kids, supported each other through bad days, celebrated each other's victories. When I won the school reading competition in 5th grade, Maya cheered louder than anyone. When her mom got a promotion at work, I helped her make a congratulations card. But the years also brought harder questions. In 5th grade, we had to do a family tree project. Everyone else excitedly drew branches connecting grandparents to parents to themselves. I stared at my blank paper, feeling that familiar ache. "Just put down what you know," the teacher said gently when she noticed me struggling. What did I know? I knew Grandpa. I knew my grandmother had died before I was born. I knew I had parents who existed somewhere but might as well be dead, for all the presents they had in my life. I drew a simple tree. Grandpa at the top, me at the bottom, left the middle deliberately blank. Maya saw it and squeezed my hand under the desk. "Your tree is perfect," she whispered. "It's empty. It's honest. That counts for something." The teacher accepted my project without comment, but I saw the pity in her eyes. I hated that look. The one that said, "Poor Emma, such a tragic story." I didn't want to be tragic. I wanted to be normal. Grandpa tried to make up for what I was missing. He attended every school event, every parent-teacher conference, every awards ceremony. He was often the oldest person in the room by 20 or 30 years, but he showed up without fail. "My grandpa came to career day," I told Maya after Grandpa had spent an hour teaching the class basic carpentry skills. Everyone else had parents. "Your grandpa's cooler than most parents," Maya said. "Did you see how he taught Tommy to hammer without hitting his thumb? Tommy's dad is an accountant. He can't do that." She had a point. Grandpa might have been different, but he was present. That had to count for something. 6th grade brought new challenges. My body started changing in ways I didn't understand and didn't want to talk about. When I got my first period, I was mortified. How was I supposed to tell Grandpa about this? I didn't have to. Mrs. Patterson noticed me crying in the library bathroom and gently coaxed the story out of me. She took me to the store, helped me buy what I needed, explained things my mother should have explained. "Does it get easier?" I asked her. "The physical part?" "Yes." "The emotional part of growing up without your mom?" She paused. "I don't know, honey, but you're not alone. You have people who care about you." "It's not the same." "No, it's not. But sometimes we have to work with what we have instead of mourning what we don't." That night, I told Grandpa what had happened. His face turned red, and I could tell he was uncomfortable, but he listened. "I'm sorry your grandmother isn't here for this," he said finally. "She'd know what to say. But I'm proud of you for telling me. And if you need anything at all, you let me know. Even if it's embarrassing? Especially if it's embarrassing. That's what family does." Family. The word felt different now. Not about biology or legal obligation. About showing up, even when it was awkward or difficult. The years passed. 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th. I grew taller, quieter, more introspective. While other kids were obsessing over pop stars and social media, I was reading Tolkien and Steinbeck, losing myself in worlds where heroes overcame impossible odds. 7th grade brought another milestone. Maya and I both tried out for the school play, a production of Anne of Green Gables. Maya got the part of Diana Barry. I was cast as Anne Shirley herself, the orphan girl looking for a place to belong. The irony wasn't lost on me. Rehearsals became my favorite part of the day. I threw myself into the role, finding pieces of myself in Anne's fierce independence, her vivid imagination, her desperate need for family. When I delivered the line about wanting to belong somewhere, I wasn't acting. Opening night, Grandpa sat in the front row. I could see him from the stage, watching intently, smiling at all the right moments. During the curtain call, he stood and applauded, and I felt a surge of love so intense it almost knocked me over. After the show, he hugged me tight. "You were magnificent, Emma girl, a natural performer." "I was just playing myself," I said. "I know. That's what made it so powerful." Maya's mom took us out for ice cream after, and we celebrated late into the night. It was one of the happiest memories of my childhood. Being on that stage, transforming my pain into art, having people I loved in the audience cheering me on. But 8th grade brought reality crashing back. Maya's mom got a job offer in California. They were moving at the end of the school year. Come with us, Maya begged. You could live with us. My mom already said it's okay. I was tempted. The idea of leaving Millbrook, of starting fresh somewhere new where nobody knew my story, was appealing. But looking at Grandpa, seeing how much older he looked, how tired, I knew I couldn't leave. I can't, I told Maya. He needs me. What about what you need? I need to be here, with him. He's all I have. I'm going to miss you so much. I'm going to miss you too. We promised to call, to write, to visit. We meant it at the time, but distance has a way of eroding even the strongest friendships. Within a year, our calls became less frequent, our letters shorter. By high school, we'd lost touch completely. Losing Maya felt like another abandonment, even though intellectually, I knew it wasn't the same. She didn't choose to leave me, but my heart didn't care about logic. It just knew that another person I loved had left. Grandpa noticed my depression. You've been quiet lately. I'm fine. Emma. I sighed. I miss Maya. I miss having a friend. You'll make new friends. I don't want new friends. I want my old friend back. He nodded slowly. I know what that feels like. When your grandmother died, people kept telling me I'd meet someone else, that I'd move on. But I didn't want someone else. I wanted her. Did it get better? Eventually. The pain dulled. I learned to carry it instead of letting it carry me. You will too. I'm tired of learning to carry pain, I said bitterly. Why can't things just be easy for once? Because life isn't easy. It's hard and complicated and sometimes deeply unfair. But Emma, you're one of the strongest people I know. You'll get through this too. I wanted to believe him, but in that moment, I felt anything but strong. High school started rough. Without Maya, I felt adrift. I tried joining clubs, making new friends, but nothing clicked. I was too bookish for the popular kids, too damaged for the normal kids, too quiet for the loud kids. I existed in the spaces between, invisible and alone. The guidance counselor called me in halfway through freshman year. Ms. Rodriguez was young, energetic, and genuinely seemed to care. Emma, your teachers are worried about you. Your grades are fine, excellent actually, but you seem withdrawn, isolated. I'm fine. Are you? Because from where I'm sitting, you look like a kid carrying the weight of the world. Something about her directness broke through my defenses. What do you want me to say? That it's hard being the kid whose parents dumped her? That I miss my best friend who moved away? That sometimes I look at other kids with their normal families and hate them a little? I want you to be honest. With me, with yourself. You've been through trauma, Emma. Abandonment is trauma. It leaves scars. I know that. So why are you trying to handle it alone? Have you talked to anyone? A therapist? I thought about the therapy sessions Grandpa had scraped together money for when I was younger. They'd helped, but we couldn't afford to continue long-term. We did therapy, can't afford it anymore. There are programs, sliding scale fees. I can help you find something. And she did. Within 2 weeks, I was seeing Dr. Chen, a therapist who specialized in abandonment and attachment issues. She was patient, insightful, and didn't let me hide behind deflection or sarcasm. You're angry, she observed during our third session. I'm not angry. Emma, anger isn't bad. It's a natural response to being hurt, but you need to acknowledge it before you can process it. Fine, I'm angry. I'm furious. Is that what you want to hear? What I want is for you to explore where that anger comes from and where it's directed. Over the following months, we unpacked everything. My rage at my parents for leaving, my guilt over feeling like a burden to Grandpa, my fear that everyone I loved would eventually abandon me, my deep-seated belief that I was somehow unlovable, that there was something fundamentally wrong with me that made people leave. You know none of that is true, right? Dr. Chen said. Your parents' inability to care for you says nothing about your worth. It says everything about their limitations. Intellectually, I understood. Emotionally, that was harder. But slowly, therapy helped. I started to separate my parents' choices from my identity, started to see Grandpa's love as proof that I was worthy, not as a fluke or obligation, started to believe that maybe, just maybe, I deserved good things. Sophomore year was better. I joined the school newspaper, discovering I had a talent for investigative reporting. I started volunteering at the local animal shelter, finding comfort in caring for abandoned dogs and cats who understood what it felt like to be left behind. I made a few casual friends, not as close as Maya had been, but enough to feel less alone. Grandpa noticed the change. "You seem lighter," he said one evening. Therapy helps. I wish I could have afforded more of it earlier. You gave me everything you could. That's enough. He smiled, but I saw the worry in his eyes. He was getting older, moving slower. Some mornings, I'd hear him groan as he got out of bed, his joints protesting. He tried to hide it, but I noticed everything. "Are you okay?" I asked. "Just old age catching up with me. Nothing to worry about." But I did worry, because if something happened to him, I'd be truly alone. When I turned 13, something shifted. Adolescence hit like a freight train, bringing with it a tidal wave of anger I didn't know how to process. All the grief I'd suppressed for years came roaring to the surface. I started acting out, talking back, slamming doors, staying out past curfew with kids Grandpa didn't approve of. There was this group at school, the troublemakers, the ones who smoked behind the gym and got detention regularly. They welcomed me without questions, without judgment. With them, I could be angry. I could be reckless. I could stop pretending everything was fine. "Emma, we need to talk about your behavior," Grandpa said one evening after I'd come home an hour late, reeking of cigarette smoke. "What about it?" "You're not yourself." "How would you know what myself is? You barely know me." The words were designed to hurt, and I saw them land. His face fell, but he didn't get angry. He never got angry, which somehow made me angrier. "I know you're hurting," he said quietly. "I know you're angry. But taking it out on the people who care about you isn't going to fix anything." "The people who care about me?" I laughed bitterly. "You mean the one person stuck with me? Because everyone else left." "I'm not stuck with you, Emma. I chose to be here. You didn't have a choice." "They dumped me on you." I could have said no. That stopped me. I'd never considered that possibility. In my mind, Grandpa had been obligated to take me, forced into a situation he didn't want. "Why didn't you?" He was quiet for a long moment, his weathered hands folded on the table. "Because you're my granddaughter. Because I love you. And because I knew what it felt like to be abandoned." This was new. Grandpa never talked about his own pain, never made anything about him. "What do you mean?" He sighed, running a hand through his thinning hair. "My father left when I was 10, went out for cigarettes one night and never came back. Just vanished. Left my mother with 3 kids and no money. She did her best, worked 2 jobs, but she was bitter, angry at the world. Angry at us for reminding her of him. I grew up feeling like a burden, like my existence was a problem that needed to be solved. I swore I'd never make a child feel that way. So when your parents brought you here, I made a choice. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. Because I saw myself in your eyes, that same confusion and hurt, and I wanted to give you what I never had. Someone who chose you. Tears were streaming down my face. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for what I said. I know you are, but Emma, you need to understand something. Your parents' choices aren't a reflection of your worth. They're a reflection of their own weakness, their own fears. You are worthy of love. You always have been. And nothing you do or say is going to make me leave. I'm here until the end, you understand. No matter what. I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. "But this behavior has to stop," he continued, his voice firmer now. "The smoking, the late nights, the attitude. You're better than this, smarter than this. I know you're angry at the world, but destroying yourself isn't going to hurt your parents. It's only going to hurt you." He was right. Of course he was right. The kids I'd been hanging out with weren't my friends. They were just as lost as I was, maybe more so. We were all looking for something to fill the void, something to numb the pain. But cigarettes and rebellion weren't the answer. That conversation didn't fix everything overnight, but it cracked something open inside me. The next day, I asked Grandpa about therapy again. "Can we afford it?" I asked hesitantly. "We'll make it work," he said. "Your well-being isn't negotiable." Dr. Chen was a godsend. She helped me understand that anger was just grief in disguise, that acting out was my way of testing whether Grandpa would leave too. She taught me healthy coping mechanisms, helped me process the abandonment in productive ways. "You're trying to push him away before he can leave you," she explained during one session. "It's a defense mechanism. If you make him leave, at least you have control over it." That's messed up. It's human. It's what we do when we've been hurt. But Emma, he's not going anywhere. You need to start believing that. It took time, but slowly I did. I cut ties with the troublemaker crowd, started focusing on school again, rebuilt my relationship with Grandpa. It wasn't always smooth. There were setbacks, arguments, days when the old anger flared up, but we worked through it together. By the time I was 15, I'd found a new outlet for my emotions. I joined the debate team, channeling my argumentative nature into something productive. Turns out, all that reading had made me pretty good at constructing arguments and thinking on my feet. "You're a natural," Coach Martinez said after my first competition. "Fierce, articulate, passionate. Keep this up and you could go to nationals." Debate became my obsession. I practiced constantly, researching topics, rehearsing rebuttals, perfecting my delivery. It felt good to argue about things that mattered, to use my voice for something beyond teenage rebellion. Grandpa came to every competition, sitting in the audience with a proud smile. Even when I lost, he'd tell me I'd done great, point out what I'd done well. "You're going places, Emma girl," he'd say. "These kids better watch out." Sophomore year, I made it to the state championship. We didn't win, but placing third out of hundreds of teams felt like a victory. More importantly, it looked good on college applications. College. The word terrified and excited me in equal measure. It represented freedom, opportunity, escape. But it also meant leaving Grandpa, and I wasn't sure I could do that. "You need to start thinking about where you want to apply," Ms. Rodriguez said during a counseling session junior year. "I don't know. Somewhere close, I guess. Emma, you have the grades and extracurriculars for top-tier schools. Don't limit yourself because of geography. My grandfather needs me. Have you asked him what he wants?" I hadn't. That night at dinner, I brought it up. "Ms. Rodriguez thinks I should apply to schools out of state." Grandpa looked up from his plate. "What do you think?" "I think I don't want to leave you." "Emma, I'm not going to be around forever. You need to build a life for yourself, one that doesn't revolve around taking care of an old man." "Don't say that. It's true, and it's okay. But I need you to promise me something. When you look at colleges, you pick the one that's best for you, not the one that's closest to me. I'll be fine. I've got friends here, the church community. You've already given me more than I ever dreamed of. Now it's your turn to chase your dreams." "What if something happens to you?" "Then you deal with it when it happens. But you don't put your life on hold for what ifs. Promise me." I promise. But the promise felt heavy, like a weight I wasn't sure I could carry. Junior year was brutal. School, work, homework, college prep. I was exhausted all the time, running on coffee and determination. The diner where I worked had increased my hours, and I was saving every penny for college expenses financial aid wouldn't cover. Grandpa had been trying to hide it, but I knew money was tight. The roof needed repairs. His truck was on its last legs. Medical bills from a procedure earlier that year were piling up. One night, I overheard him on the phone with the bank. "I understand the mortgage is behind. I'm working on it. Yes, I'm aware of the late fees. I just need a little more time." My stomach dropped. We were in trouble. Real trouble. That night at dinner, I confronted him. "Why didn't you tell me about the mortgage?" He looked up, surprised and concerned. "You weren't supposed to hear that." "How bad is it?" "Nothing for you to worry about." "Grandpa, I'm not a kid anymore. Talk to me." He set down his fork, suddenly looking every one of his 72 years. "It's manageable. I've just had some unexpected expenses. The medical bills from the surgery, the roof repair that couldn't wait, your therapy sessions, the college application fees." Guilt crashed over me like a wave. "The therapy costs too much. I'll stop going." "Absolutely not. Your mental health is non-negotiable." "Then I'll get a second job, work more hours." "Emma, you're a junior in high school. You need to focus on your grades, on getting into college." "That's your job right now." "What good is college if we lose the house?" We argued back and forth, voices rising, both of us stubborn and scared. Finally, we reached a compromise. I'd work more hours at the diner on weekends and during the summer, and Grandpa would look into refinancing options and maybe take on a few more handyman jobs. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. That summer between junior and senior year, I barely slept. Double shifts at the diner, helping Grandpa with bigger repair jobs when I could, studying for the SAT in whatever spare moments I had. Mrs. Patterson let me use the library after hours for quiet study time, bringing me coffee and encouragement when I looked ready to collapse. "You're going to burn out," she warned. "I can't. There's too much to do." "Emma, you can't save the world. You can't even save your grandfather from every financial hardship. All you can do is your best." "What if my best isn't enough?" "Then you learn to accept that and keep moving forward anyway. That's life." I took the SAT in August, exhausted but prepared. When the scores came back a few weeks later, I stared at them in disbelief. 1,400 out of 1,600. Not perfect, but good. Really good. "I knew you could do it," Grandpa said, beaming with pride. "Smartest person I know." "It's just a test score." "It's proof of all that hard work paying off. Emma, you're going to have choices, real choices, and you've earned every single one of them." Senior year, the acceptance letters started arriving. Penn State, Pitt, Temple, all with decent financial aid packages. But the one I wanted most, the one I barely dared to hope for, came in March. Columbia University. Acceptance. With a financial aid package that would cover nearly all of the tuition. I read the letter 3 times to make sure it was real. Columbia, in New York City. One of the best universities in the country. And they wanted me. "Grandpa," I said, bursting into the kitchen where he was making dinner. My voice was shaking. I got into Columbia." He turned around, and when our eyes met, I saw tears streaming down his weathered face. "Emma girl, that's incredible. I'm so proud of you. So incredibly proud." We hugged, and in that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Pure, uncomplicated joy, untainted by grief or fear or anger. But with the joy came crushing guilt. It's in New York. That's so far away. What if something happens? Then we'll deal with it. But Emma, this is your dream. Don't you dare let fear or worry or concern for me hold you back. I didn't raise you to play it safe. What about you? What about the house? The bills? I'll manage. I always do. I've got some money saved. The mortgage situation is getting better, and I'm healthy enough. You've done more than enough for this old man. It's time you did something for yourself. But, no buts. You're going to New York. End of discussion. I searched his face, looking for any sign of doubt or resentment. All I saw was love and pride and absolute certainty. "Okay," I whispered. "I'll go. That's my girl. The rest of senior year passed in a blur of preparations. Graduation in June, where I gave the valedictorian speech about overcoming adversity and the importance of chosen family. The entire audience gave a standing ovation, and Grandpa cried openly, not even trying to hide it. "That's my granddaughter," I heard him tell the person next to him. "Raised her myself. Look at her now." The summer before college was bittersweet. I worked as many hours as the diner would give me, saving every penny. Grandpa and I spent our evenings on the porch like always, but now there was an invisible clock ticking down to my departure. We talked about everything and nothing: his childhood, his time in the Navy, meeting my grandmother at a USO dance. He told me stories I'd never heard before, like he was trying to pass on his entire history before I left. "Why are you telling me all this now?" I asked one night. "Because someday, when I'm gone, these stories will be all you have left of me. I want you to know where you come from, not just your parents, but your whole family history. The good, the bad, all of it. You're not going anywhere. Emma, I'm 75 years old. I'm going somewhere eventually, and I want to make sure you're prepared. I'll never be prepared for that. Nobody is, but having these memories, these stories, will help. Trust me." So I listened. I memorized every story, every detail, every laugh line around his eyes as he remembered happier times. August came too quickly. Grandpa drove me to the airport, my life packed into 2 suitcases. We didn't talk much during the drive. There wasn't much left to say. At the security checkpoint, we hugged for a long time. "Thank you," I whispered. "For everything, for raising me, for never giving up on me." "You made it easy," he said, his voice rough. "You're a remarkable young woman, Emma. Never forget that." "I love you, Grandpa." "I love you too, Emma girl. Now go show them what you're made of." I watched him walk away, his shoulders slightly hunched, and felt my heart crack. He'd given me everything: stability, love, a future. And now I was leaving him. August came too quickly. Grandpa drove me to the airport, my entire life packed into 2 battered suitcases and a backpack. The drive was quiet, both of us lost in our own thoughts, trying to memorize the landscape, the moment, each other. At the security checkpoint, we stood facing each other. Grandpa looked smaller somehow, older. Or maybe I was just seeing him clearly for the first time, seeing the toll that raising me had taken. "Thank you," I whispered, throwing my arms around him. "For everything, for raising me, for never giving up on me, for showing me what love looks like." "You made it easy," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "You're a remarkable young woman, Emma. Never forget that. Never let anyone make you feel less than extraordinary." "I love you, Grandpa." "I love you too, Emma girl. Now go show them what you're made of." I watched him walk away, his shoulders slightly hunched, his gait slower than I remembered. My heart cracked watching him disappear into the crowd. He'd given me everything: stability, love, a future. And now I was leaving him alone. The flight to New York felt surreal. I'd never been on a plane before, never been more than a few hours from Millbrook. Now I was flying across the country to a city I'd only seen in movies, to a school I'd only visited once during admitted students' weekend. What if I'd made a mistake? What if I couldn't handle it? What if Grandpa needed me and I was too far away? But I'd made a promise, to him, to myself, to chase my dreams no matter how scary they seemed. New York was overwhelming. The city never slept, never stopped moving. The noise, the crowds, the sheer density of humanity pressed in from all sides. Columbia's campus was beautiful but intimidating, an oasis of green in the middle of urban chaos, filled with students who seemed so much more confident and worldly than I felt. My roommate was a girl named Jessica from Connecticut, whose parents were both lawyers. She was nice enough, friendly in that polished way wealthy people often are, but we had nothing in common. She talked casually about her gap year backpacking through Europe, her family's summer home in the Hamptons, her connections at various prestigious law firms through her parents. I talked about working at a diner in rural Pennsylvania, about saving tips to buy textbooks. "That's so brave," she said once, and I couldn't tell if she was being sincere or condescending. I could never work in food service. Too stressful. I bit back the response that living paycheck to paycheck was stressful, that wondering if you'd have enough for groceries was stressful, that working 2 jobs while maintaining a 4.0 GPA was stressful. Instead, I just smiled and changed the subject. The cultural divide extended beyond my roommate. Everywhere I looked, students were casually discussing their international travel experiences, their prep school backgrounds, their family connections. They spoke multiple languages, referenced books and films I'd never heard of, wore clothes that cost more than my monthly food budget. I felt like an imposter, like someone had made a clerical error admitting me. These were Columbia students. Brilliant, sophisticated, worldly. I was just Emma from Millbrook, the girl whose parents didn't want her. Classes were intense. The professors expected you to keep up. No hand-holding, no extensions, no excuses. We weren't high school students anymore. We were adults and we'd better act like it. My Intro to Literary Theory professor assigned 300 pages of dense critical reading the first week. My writing seminar professor eviscerated my first essay, covering it in red ink, noting my provincial perspective and unsophisticated analysis. I spent most nights in the library, studying until my eyes blurred and my back ached, determined to prove I belonged. The Butler Library became my second home, a massive, beautiful space filled with more books than I'd ever seen in one place. I claimed a spot on the 3rd floor, near a window overlooking the campus, and that's where I lived between classes. Other students seemed to balance academics with vibrant social lives. They went to parties, joined clubs, explored the city. I went to class, to the library, and back to my dorm. That was it. That was my entire world. I called Grandpa every Sunday without fail, timing it for after church when I knew he'd be home. He always wanted to hear about my classes, my professors, whether I was making friends. I downplayed my struggles, painting a picture of college life that was challenging but manageable, not wanting him to worry. "How are the other students?" he'd ask. "Nice, smart." "Everyone's really smart here." "You're smart too, Emma. Don't forget that." "I know. It's just different. They've all had opportunities I haven't. Better schools, tutors, travel. Sometimes I feel like I'm playing catch-up." "You've had something they haven't. Resilience, determination, the knowledge that nothing comes easy, that everything worth having requires work. That's worth more than any prep school education." I wanted to believe him, but it was hard when I was struggling to understand references in class discussions that everyone else seemed to get intuitively. He seemed to be doing well, keeping busy with his handyman work, attending church every Sunday, playing cards with his buddies on Friday nights. He told me about fixing Mrs. Henderson's leaky faucet, about the church potluck where he'd won the pie-eating contest, about how the leaves were starting to turn and fall was coming to Millbrook. "Don't worry about me," he'd say. "I'm right as rain. You focus on your studies." But I did worry, constantly. Was he eating enough? Taking his medications? Staying warm as the weather got colder? The distance felt impossible. The separation physical pain. October brought midterms and I barely survived. I studied until I made myself sick, living on coffee and vending machine snacks, sleeping maybe 4 hours a night. My grades were decent, but not spectacular. B's and B pluses. At Columbia, that felt like failure. "You're being too hard on yourself," my RA Marcus told me when he found me crying in the common room at 2 in the morning. "B's are good grades." "Not here, not at Columbia. Even here. Emma, you're adjusting to college, to a new city, to being away from home for the first time. Give yourself some grace. But grace felt like weakness, like admitting I wasn't good enough. Freshman year was a blur of all-nighters, challenging coursework, and slow social adjustment. I made a few friends, other scholarship students who understood what it meant to work for everything you had. There was Kenji, a computer science major from California whose parents were farm workers. There was Aisha, a pre-med student from Chicago whose single mom cleaned houses. There was Marcus, a philosophy major from Detroit who'd aged out of foster care at 18. We formed a small, tight-knit group, bonded by our outsider status, by our financial aid packages, by the constant feeling that we had to work twice as hard to deserve our spot. We studied together in the library, explored the city on our limited budgets, cooked cheap meals in the dorm kitchens, and reminded each other why we'd worked so hard to get here. We belong here just as much as anyone else, Aisha would say, usually after one of us had a rough day. We earned our spots. Don't let anyone make you feel otherwise. They became my lifeline, my chosen family in New York. When I was homesick, they understood. When I was overwhelmed, they helped. When I doubted myself, they reminded me of my strength. By sophomore year, I'd found my rhythm. The classes were still challenging, but I'd learned how to manage the workload, how to prioritize, how to ask for help when I needed it. I declared an English major with a minor in education, thinking maybe I could give back the way Mrs. Patterson had given to me. Maybe I could be that person for some other lost kid who needed someone to believe in them. I started volunteering at a literacy program in Harlem through a campus community service organization. Every Tuesday and Thursday evening, I'd take the subway uptown to a community center and teach adults to read. My students ranged from 18 to 70, people who'd fallen through the cracks of the education system for various reasons: poverty, immigration. Learning disabilities that were never addressed. Life circumstances that prioritized survival over education. There was Maria, a grandmother from El Salvador who'd never learned to read in Spanish or English, but wanted to read bedtime stories to her grandchildren. There was James, a veteran in his 50s who'd hidden his illiteracy his entire adult life and was finally ready to face it. There was Destiny, a teenage mom who'd dropped out of school and was determined to get her GED. Teaching them was humbling and rewarding in equal measure. They worked so hard, showed up every week despite jobs and family obligations and exhaustion. They were hungry to learn in a way my Columbia classmates sometimes weren't. They reminded me why education mattered, why it was worth fighting for. "You're a natural teacher," the program coordinator, Mrs. Williams, told me. "Patient, encouraging, creative. Ever considered making this a career?" "I'm thinking about it. I want to work with kids, though. Middle or high school. The world needs good teachers. Teachers who understand that education is about more than test scores. Teachers who see their students as whole people." Her words stayed with me. Maybe this was my purpose. Maybe I'd been through everything I'd been through so I could help kids going through similar struggles. Grandpa was thrilled when I told him about the literacy program during one of our Sunday calls. "That's my girl," he said, his voice full of pride. "Using your gifts to help others." That's what life's about, Emma. Not just success for success's sake, but making a difference. But I noticed something in his voice, a weariness that hadn't been there before, a slight breathlessness, like the conversation was tiring him out. "Are you feeling okay?" I asked, concern creeping into my voice. "Just a little tired." Getting old isn't for the weak, you know. "Grandpa, maybe you should see a doctor, just for a checkup." "I'm fine, Emma, stop fussing. You sound like a worried mother hen." "I'm serious. When was your last physical?" I don't know, a year ago? 2? That's too long. Please make an appointment. For me, I'll worry less if I know you're taking care of yourself. He sighed. Fine. I'll call Dr. Patterson's office next week. Happy? Very. And you'll actually go to the appointment, not just make it and cancel. Yes, ma'am. When did you get so bossy? I learned from the best. He laughed, but it sounded hollow. I let it go, but the worry lingered, a constant knot in my stomach. Something felt off, and being so far away made it impossible to know what. Junior year brought a new challenge that I wasn't prepared for. I met someone. His name was Daniel, a graduate student in the journalism program. We met at a campus protest against tuition hikes in October. I'd gone mostly because Aisha had dragged me along, insisting I needed to be more politically engaged. I was standing near the edge of the crowd, holding a hastily made sign, when someone bumped into me. Sorry, he said, turning around. He had warm brown eyes, dark hair that curled at his collar, and a smile that made my stomach flip. Didn't see you there. It's fine, crowded. First protest? He asked, noticing my awkward stance. Is it that obvious? Little bit. But hey, we all start somewhere. I'm Daniel. Emma. We started talking, and one conversation led to another. He was passionate about social justice, about using journalism to amplify marginalized voices. He'd grown up working class in Pittsburgh, the son of a factory worker and a nurse. He understood what it meant to fight for opportunities, to work 3 times as hard for half the recognition. After the protest, he asked if I wanted to grab coffee. Then coffee turned into dinner. Dinner turned into long walks through Riverside Park. Walks turned into study dates in the library. Before I knew it, we were spending most of our free time together. It was my first real relationship, and it terrified me. Being vulnerable with someone, letting them see all the broken parts I usually kept hidden behind walls and sarcasm and deflection. Every time Daniel got close, every time he asked about my past or my feelings, I felt the urge to run. Why are you always doing that? He asked one night when I'd deflected yet another personal question with a joke. Doing what? Pushing me away. Every time we get close, you retreat, put up walls, change the subject. I don't know what you're talking about. Emma, I like you, really like you. But I can't be in a relationship with someone who won't let me in, who won't trust me with the real stuff. I was quiet for a long moment, staring at my hands. He was right. I knew he was right. But letting someone in meant giving them the power to hurt me, to leave me. And I'd been left too many times already. I'm scared, I finally admitted. Of what? Of you. Of this. Of caring about someone and having them disappear. Everyone leaves eventually, you know. My parents, my best friend Maya, everyone I've ever cared about has left. I'm not leaving. You don't know that. Nobody knows that. People make promises all the time and then break them. You're right. I can't guarantee I'll never hurt you or that we'll be together forever. Nobody can promise that. But I can promise that I'm here right now, that I choose to be here. And I'll keep choosing it every day until I can't anymore. Isn't that enough? Was it? Could I accept love that came without guarantees? Could I trust someone to stay even though my experience had taught me that people always left? I thought about Grandpa. He'd promised to stay, and he had. For 15 years, he'd kept that promise. Maybe not everyone was like my parents. Maybe some people actually meant it when they said they cared. I was abandoned when I was 7, I said quietly. My parents dropped me off at my grandfather's house and never came back. Didn't call, didn't write, didn't visit. For 15 years, they've pretended I don't exist. So, yeah, I have trust issues. I have abandonment issues. I have a whole collection of issues that would probably take years of therapy to fully unpack. Daniel listened without interrupting, his face soft with compassion but not pity. That was important. I couldn't handle pity. That explains a lot, he said when I finished. Why you're so fiercely independent. Why you work twice as hard as everyone else. Why you don't let anyone get too close. Why you're always waiting for the other shoe to drop. Is that a bad thing? It's not bad or good. It's just you. It's part of your story. But Emma, you don't have to do everything alone. You don't have to protect yourself from everyone. I'm here. Let me help carry some of the weight. It was easier said than done. Trust didn't come naturally to me. But slowly, over weeks and months, I learned to lean on him, to share my fears and doubts, to believe that maybe, just maybe, he meant what he said. Daniel was patient in a way nobody had been before. When I had panic attacks about Grandpa's health, he held me without trying to fix anything. When I got overwhelmed with schoolwork and volunteering and money worries, he helped me prioritize without judgment. When I woke up from nightmares about being abandoned again, he stayed on the phone with me until I fell back asleep. He met my friends, and they liked him. More importantly, they approved. He's good for you, Aisha said after we all had dinner together. He sees you. Really sees you, and he's not intimidated by your strength. You think I'm strong? Emma, you're one of the strongest people I know. You just don't see it because you're too busy surviving to notice. My Sunday calls with Grandpa continued. I told him about Daniel, carefully at first, not sure how he'd react to me having a boyfriend. What's he studying? Grandpa asked. Journalism. He wants to be an investigative reporter, expose corruption, tell stories that matter. Sounds like a good man. Does he treat you well? He does. Really well. He's patient and kind, and he makes me laugh. Then I'm happy for you, Emma girl. You deserve someone who treats you right, someone who sees your value. You're not worried? About me being distracted from school or anything? Life is about more than just school and work. It's about connections, relationships, love. Your grandmother was the best thing that ever happened to me. If this young man makes you happy, then I'm all for it. Hearing Grandpa's approval meant everything. He was my barometer for what was right, what was healthy. If he thought Daniel was good for me, then maybe he was. Spring semester of junior year was when Grandpa finally went to the doctor for that checkup I'd been nagging him about. He called me on a Tuesday afternoon, which was unusual. Our calls were always Sundays. Always. My heart started racing the moment I saw his name on my phone. Grandpa, what's wrong? Nothing's wrong. I just wanted to call and tell you about my doctor's appointment before Sunday. Okay, how did it go? There was a pause. Too long. They found something. The world tilted. What do you mean they found something? Some abnormal blood work. They want to run more tests. It's probably nothing, but they want to be thorough. What kind of tests? I don't know all the details yet. Something about tumor markers. They're scheduling a colonoscopy for next week. Tumor markers. Colonoscopy. The words felt like bullets. I'm coming home. No, you're not. You have classes. You have exams coming up. I don't care about exams. You're sick. We don't know that yet. Emma, please, don't panic until there's something to panic about. Let them run their tests. We'll know more next week. But I was already panicking, already imagining the worst, already calculating how quickly I could get home if he needed me. Promise me you'll call as soon as you know anything. Anything at all. I promise. Now stop worrying and focus on your studies. I'm fine. I feel fine. This is probably just precautionary. I wanted to believe him. Needed to believe him. But my gut told me something was wrong. Seriously wrong. The next week was torture. I couldn't focus in class, couldn't eat, could barely sleep. Daniel stayed with me most nights, just holding me, reminding me to breathe. He's going to be okay, he'd say. You don't know that. You're right, I don't. But worrying yourself sick isn't going to change anything. All you can do is be present for whatever comes next. The call came on a Friday afternoon. I was in the library pretending to study when my phone rang. Grandpa's number. Hello? Emma, it's me. His voice sounded tired, defeated. The tests came back. I closed my eyes, bracing myself. And? Stage 3 colon cancer. It's aggressive. They caught it late. The library spun around me. Cancer. Stage 3. Aggressive. The words didn't feel real. What does that mean? What's the treatment? Chemotherapy. Surgery maybe, depending on how I respond to the chemo. The oncologist says the prognosis is guarded but not hopeless. I'm coming home. Today. I'm booking a flight right now. Emma, no. You have classes. You're in the middle of the semester. I don't care. You're sick. You need me. What I need is for you to stay in school, to finish what you started. Emma, please, do this for me. I'm starting treatment next week. There's nothing you can do here that the doctors aren't already doing. Stay in New York, please. We argued for 30 minutes, me insisting I needed to come home, him insisting I needed to stay. Finally, we reached a compromise. I'd stay in New York for now, but I'd come home every other weekend. And if anything changed, if he got worse, I'd drop everything and come home permanently. It was one of the hardest decisions I've ever made. Staying in New York while Grandpa was sick felt like abandonment, like I was doing to him what my parents had done to me. But he was so adamant, so insistent that I continue my education. Don't sacrifice your future for me, he said. I couldn't live with myself if you did. So I stayed, but nothing was the same after that phone call. I threw myself into my studies, into the literacy program, into my relationship with Daniel. Anything to avoid thinking about the fact that I could lose the only parent I'd ever really had. I flew home every other weekend, watching helplessly as chemotherapy ravaged his body. He lost his hair, his appetite, his strength, but never his spirit. Even on his worst days, he asked about my classes, made terrible jokes, reminded me to focus on my future. When you graduate, I'll be in the front row, he promised. Might be bald as a cue ball, but I'll be there. You better be, I said, trying to keep my voice light. Senior year was a nightmare. Balancing classes, my thesis, applications for teaching programs, and trips home to see Grandpa. Daniel was incredible through it all, helping me study, driving me to the airport, holding me when I broke down crying. I can't lose him, I sobbed one night. He's all I have. He's not all you have, Daniel said gently. You have yourself. You have me. You have a whole life ahead of you. Your grandfather made sure of that. It's not fair. After everything he did, everything he sacrificed, he deserves better than this. Life isn't fair. You know that better than most. But Emma, your grandfather is so proud of you. Whatever happens, he knows he did his job. He raised you into this incredible woman. That's his legacy. The cancer went into remission that winter. Against all odds, Grandpa responded well to treatment. His doctors were cautiously optimistic. I was over the moon. See, he said during one of my visits. I told you I was too stubborn to die. Don't even joke about that. Who's joking? I've got your graduation to attend, and your wedding someday, and maybe some great-grandkids down the line. I've got plenty of reasons to stick around. I graduated in May with honors. True to his word, Grandpa was in the audience, wearing his best suit, a huge smile on his thin face. When they called my name, he stood up and cheered louder than anyone. I saw Daniel filming it on his phone, tears streaming down his face. That moment, walking across that stage, seeing Grandpa so proud, so happy. It felt like vindication, like proof that despite everything, I'd made it. After graduation, I moved back to Pennsylvania. I'd been accepted into a teaching program at a school about 30 minutes from Millbrook. Daniel got a job at a regional newspaper. We found a small apartment together, and life felt like it was finally falling into place. I visited Grandpa twice a week, bringing groceries, helping with housework, just spending time together. He seemed to be doing well, still thin, Still tired, but stable. We fell back into our old rhythm. Dinners on the porch, fishing at the creek, comfortable silences. "I'm proud of you, Emma girl," he said one evening. "Not just for graduating, for everything. You've become exactly the person I hoped you'd be." I had a good teacher. You did the work. I just provided the space for you to grow. It was more than that. You saved me. You know that, right? I don't know what would have happened to me without you. He smiled. I think you would have been just fine. You're a survivor. But I'm glad I got to be part of your journey. 2 years passed. Good years. I was teaching 6th grade English, helping kids fall in love with reading the way Mrs. Patterson had helped me. Daniel proposed on Christmas Eve, a simple ring he'd saved for months to buy. I said yes without hesitation. Grandpa was thrilled. "He's a good man," he told me. "Takes care of you, respects you. That's what matters." We set a date for the following September. Small ceremony, just close friends and family. Grandpa would walk me down the aisle. We'd already picked out his suit. But life had other plans. In July, Grandpa collapsed at home. The neighbor found him unconscious on the kitchen floor and called an ambulance. By the time I got to the hospital, the doctors had run a battery of tests. The cancer was back. Stage 4 now. It had spread to his liver and lungs. There was nothing more they could do. "How long?" I asked the doctor, my voice barely a whisper. "Weeks, maybe a month." The world went gray around the edges. Hospice came to the house. Grandpa refused to die in a hospital. "I want to go home," he said. "In my own bed. In the house I built with my own hands." I took a leave of absence from teaching. Daniel and I moved into Grandpa's house to care for him. It was the longest month of my life. We talked a lot during those final weeks, about his life, my life, everything and nothing. He wanted to make sure I was okay, that I'd be okay without him. "You're going to be fine," he said one afternoon, his voice weak but certain. "You're strong, Emma, stronger than you know." I don't feel strong. Nobody does when they're facing loss, but strength isn't about not feeling pain. It's about feeling it and choosing to keep going anyway. I don't want to keep going without you. Yes, you do. You have Daniel. You have your students. You have so much life left to live. Promise me you'll live it, really live it. Don't hide behind those books anymore. Don't let fear keep you from joy. I promise. One night, about 3 weeks after he entered hospice, Grandpa asked me to sit with him. He had something to tell me. "I heard from your mother," he said quietly. My blood ran cold. "What?" "About 2 years after they dropped you off. She called, said they wanted to come get you." "What did you say?" "I told her no." He paused, taking a labored breath. "I told her she'd made her choice, and now she had to live with it. That you were thriving, happy, safe, and that I wasn't going to let her uproot your life again on a whim." Tears were streaming down my face. She wanted me back? For about 5 minutes, until I mentioned that she'd need to pay back the money I'd spent raising you. Child support, medical expenses, all of it. Then suddenly she wasn't so interested anymore. Did she ever call again? Once more, about 8 years ago. Said she'd gotten her life together, wanted to reconnect. I told her the same thing. That if she wanted a relationship with you, she'd have to do it on your terms when you were ready. That I wasn't going to facilitate it. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't want her to hurt you again, and because I was afraid. Afraid that if you knew she wanted contact, you'd choose her over me. Selfish, I know. Grandpa, I would never have chosen them over you. I know that now. But back then, I was just a scared old man who'd fallen in love with this incredible little girl and didn't want to lose her. I held his hand, both of us crying. You never told me about the money, about how much you spent. It was never about the money, Emma. It was about doing what was right. You were a child who needed someone. I was someone who could help. Simple as that. There was nothing simple about it. You sacrificed everything for me. I didn't sacrifice anything. You gave me purpose, gave me a reason to get up every morning, gave me joy. I should be thanking you. 2 days later, Grandpa slipped into a coma. The hospice nurse said it wouldn't be long. Daniel and I took turns sitting with him, holding his hand, talking to him, even though we didn't know if he could hear us. I told him about my students, about the wedding plans, about how I was going to name my first child after him, boy or girl. "Thank you," I whispered on that final night. "Thank you for choosing me. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for showing me what a parent should be. I love you so much." He died just before dawn. Peacefully. Painlessly. Just slipped away. I'd prepared myself for this moment for weeks, but nothing could have prepared me for the actual pain of it. The finality. The silence. The emptiness. Daniel held me as I sobbed, my body shaking with grief so profound I thought it might break me. The funeral was set for the following Saturday. Small service at the local church, burial in the town cemetery next to my grandmother. I spent the week in a fog, going through motions, making arrangements. On Friday, the day before the funeral, my phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Emma, this is your mother." I froze. After 15 years of silence, now she called. "How did you get this number?" "I saw the obituary online." "I'm so sorry about your grandfather." "Are you?" The words came out colder than I intended. "Of course I am. He was my father." "He was my father too, the only one I ever had." Silence on the other end. Then, "Your dad and I would like to come to the funeral, to pay our respects." "Absolutely not." "Emma, please, he was family." "Family? You want to talk about family? You abandoned me. For 15 years, you didn't call, didn't write, didn't ask if I was alive or dead, and now you want to show up and play the grieving daughter?" "It's more complicated than that." "No, it's really not. You made a choice. You chose to leave. To forget I existed. Well, guess what? I don't need you now." "Emma, I understand you're angry. I'm not angry. I'm done. Don't come to the funeral. Don't call this number again. You gave up the right to be part of my life a long time ago." I hung up, my hands shaking. Daniel appeared in the doorway. "Are you okay?" "That was my mother. She wants to come to the funeral." "What did you tell her?" "To stay away." He pulled me into a hug. "Good." But of course, they didn't stay away. The funeral was packed. Apparently, Grandpa had touched more lives than I'd realized. Former clients, church friends, neighbors, my old teachers. Mrs. Patterson was there, crying openly. Daniel's family came. My friend from college drove down. It was beautiful and horrible all at once. I was standing by the casket, greeting people, when I saw them, my parents, walking into the church like they had every right to be there. My mother looked older, tired. My father had gained weight, lost hair. They were strangers wearing familiar faces. I watched them approach, feeling Daniel tense beside me. "Emma," my mother said, reaching for me. "We're so sorry." I stepped back. "I told you not to come." "He was our father," my dad said. "We had a right." "You lost your rights 15 years ago." People were starting to stare. The pastor approached, looking concerned. "Perhaps we should take this outside," he suggested gently. "There's nothing to discuss," I said. "They're leaving." "We need to talk about the estate," my father said. The will. And there it was, the real reason they'd come. "The estate," I repeated, feeling rage bubble up inside me. "That's what this is about? Money?" "He was our father," my mother said again. "We're entitled to—" "Entitled?" I was shaking now. "You're entitled to nothing. You abandoned your daughter. You never paid a dime of child support. You never called, never visited, never cared if she was alive or dead. And now you want to claim what's yours?" "The law is clear," my father said. "Children inherit from their parents." "Except he wasn't your parent. Not in any way that mattered. I was his child. I was the one who took care of him when he got sick. I was the one who sat by his bedside. I was the one who held his hand when he died. Where were you?" My mother had tears running down her face. "We made mistakes. We were young, stupid, scared. I don't care. I don't care about your excuses or your regrets. It's 15 years too late. Emma, please, she whispered. We're still your parents. No, I said firmly. You're not. A parent is someone who shows up, someone who stays, someone who loves you unconditionally, someone who sacrifices for you. That wasn't you. That was him. And now he's gone, and you don't get to swoop in and pretend you cared. The pastor stepped forward. Perhaps after the service? There is no after, I said. They need to leave. Now. My father's face hardened. We'll contest the will. We'll take this to court. Go ahead. I have 15 years of receipts, every doctor's appointment, every school expense, every dollar Grandpa spent raising me. 15 years of proof that you abandoned your responsibility. You want to go to court? Let's go. I'd love to watch a judge hear how you dumped your 7-year-old daughter and disappeared. Daniel put his hand on my shoulder, steadying me. The service is about to start, he said quietly. You two need to go. They looked at each other, some silent communication passing between them. Finally, they turned and walked out. I watched them go, feeling something break open inside me. Not sadness, not anger, something else. Release, maybe. Closure. The service was beautiful. People shared stories about Grandpa, his kindness, his generosity, his quiet strength. I spoke last, barely holding it together. My grandfather wasn't a perfect man, I said, looking out at the crowded church. But he was the best man I ever knew. When my parents left me on his doorstep 15 years ago, he could have turned us away. He could have said it wasn't his responsibility, but he didn't. He chose me. Every single day, he chose me. He taught me that family isn't about blood. It's about showing up. It's about love in action. It's about sacrifice and commitment and putting someone else's needs above your own. My voice broke. Daniel squeezed my hand. He saved my life in every way that matters, and I will spend the rest of my life trying to be the person he believed I could be. Thank you, Grandpa. For everything. I love you. After the burial, back at the house, the lawyer read the will. As expected, Grandpa had left everything to me. The house, his savings, everything. It wasn't much. The house was mortgaged, the savings modest, but it was mine. There's a letter, the lawyer said, handing me an envelope with my name on it. I waited until everyone had left to read it, sat on the porch where we'd spent so many evenings, Daniel beside me, and opened the envelope with shaking hands. Emma girl. The letter began in Grandpa's familiar handwriting. If you're reading this, I'm gone, and if I know your parents, they probably showed up at the funeral looking for money. I hope you sent them packing. They don't deserve your time or your tears. I want you to know something. Raising you wasn't a burden or an obligation. It was the greatest privilege of my life. You gave me purpose when I thought my best years were behind me. You gave me joy when I was lost in grief over your grandmother. You gave me hope. The house is yours now. Do with it what you want. Sell it, live in it, turn it into something new. Just know that it's filled with love. Every board, every nail, every room holds memories of us. Of you growing up, of becoming who you're meant to be. Don't let bitterness over your parents consume you. They made their choices and they have to live with them. But you don't have to carry that weight. Forgive them not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. Forgiveness isn't about them. It's about you letting go of the anger that will only poison your happiness. Live a big life, Emma. Take risks. Love deeply. Don't hide behind fear or past hurt. You have so much to offer the world. So many students who need a teacher like you. So many people who need to see that you can overcome terrible circumstances and still choose kindness, still choose hope. Marry Daniel, have babies, travel, write, teach. Whatever you do, do it fully. Don't hold back. Life is short, and it's precious, and it's meant to be lived. I'm proud of you. More proud than words can express. You took the pain of abandonment and turned it into empathy. You took rejection and turned it into resilience. You took a broken beginning and created a beautiful story. You're going to be okay. Better than okay. You're going to be extraordinary. All my love, always and forever, Grandpa. I read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down my face. Daniel held me as I cried, great heaving sobs that felt like they would never stop. But they did stop, eventually. And when they did, I felt something new. Not happiness, not yet, but the possibility of it. The knowledge that pain doesn't last forever, that grief softens with time, that life continues. The next few months were difficult. Grief isn't linear. Some days I was fine, functioning, moving forward. Other days I could barely get out of bed. But Daniel was patient, my friends were supportive, and slowly, gradually, I started to heal. I kept teaching. My students became my therapy. Watching them discover books they loved, seeing them grow confident in their reading and writing, it reminded me why I'd chosen this path, why I'd wanted to give back. One afternoon in October, about 4 months after Grandpa died, I was grading papers when my phone rang. My mother. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello? Emma, please don't hang up. What do you want? To apologize. Really apologize. Not to make excuses or ask for anything. Just to say I'm sorry. I was silent. I was young and stupid and scared, she continued. Your father and I were drowning in debt from bad choices, and we panicked. We convinced ourselves you'd be better off with my dad, that we were doing the right thing. But we weren't. We were taking the easy way out. You were abandoning your child. Yes, that's exactly what we were doing, and I've regretted it every day since. Then why didn't you call? Why didn't you try? Because I was ashamed. Because I knew I'd done something unforgivable. Because every year that passed made it harder to reach out. What would I say? How could I explain 15 years of silence? You could have tried. You're right. I should have. I should have fought for you. I should have been brave enough to face my mistakes. But I wasn't, and I'm sorrier than I can ever express. Part of me wanted to hang up, to tell her it was too late, that sorry didn't fix anything. But another part of me, the part that Grandpa had nurtured, the part that believed in second chances and redemption, that part made me stay on the line. I don't know if I can forgive you, I said finally. Not right now. Maybe not ever. You missed everything. My first day of school, my graduation, my engagement, all of it. I know, and I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I see what I did. I understand how badly I hurt you, and I'm trying to be better. Your father and I are in therapy now, working through our issues. It's probably 15 years too late, but we're trying. Why now? Why after all this time? Because your grandfather's death was a wake-up call. Because we realized we'd not only lost you, we'd lost him too. And we can't get that time back. But maybe, if you're willing, we could try to move forward. Not as parents, I know I don't deserve that title, but maybe as people in your life who care about you. I thought about Grandpa's letter, about forgiveness being for me, not them, about not carrying anger that would poison my happiness. I need time, I said, a lot of time. To think about whether I even want you in my life. That's fair. Take all the time you need. I'll wait. Don't wait. Live your life. And maybe someday, if I'm ready, I'll reach out. But no promises. Okay, Emma? For what it's worth, your grandfather called me a few weeks before he died. He wanted me to know how proud he was of you, how you'd become this incredible woman despite everything. He said you were the best thing that ever happened to him. My throat tightened. He told you that? He did. And he told me that I'd made the biggest mistake of my life walking away from you. He was right. We hung up shortly after. I sat there for a long time, thinking about choices and consequences, about pain and healing, about forgiveness and moving forward. I didn't call her back. Not that week or that month, but I thought about her sometimes, about them, about the scared young parents who'd made a terrible choice and had to live with it. Daniel and I got married in November in the backyard of Grandpa's house. It was small, intimate, perfect. Mrs. Patterson officiated. My college friends came. Daniel's family filled in as mine. As I stood under the makeshift altar we'd built, I thought about Grandpa, about how he'd planned to walk me down the aisle, about how proud he would have been. "He's here," Daniel whispered, like he could read my thoughts. I can feel it. And I could too. In the fall breeze, in the golden leaves, in the faces of the people who'd shown up to support us. Grandpa had taught me that family was more than blood. It was the people who chose to show up, who chose to stay, who chose to love you even when it was hard. We kept the house, turned Grandpa's room into an office, painted the kitchen, built raised beds in the garden, made it ours while honoring his memory. I continued teaching. Daniel continued writing. We talked about kids someday. About carrying on Grandpa's legacy of choosing family, of showing up, of loving unconditionally. 2 years after Grandpa died, on what would have been his 80th birthday, I drove to the cemetery alone, sat by his grave with flowers, and talked to him like I used to on the porch. "I'm okay," I told him. "I'm actually really happy. The grief still comes in waves sometimes, but it's manageable. Bearable." The wind rustled through the trees. "I've been thinking about Mom and Dad, about what you said in your letter about forgiveness. I'm not ready yet, but I'm working on it, letting go of the anger bit by bit." A cardinal landed on a nearby branch, bright red against the gray stone. "I miss you every day. Miss your stories, your wisdom, your quiet strength. But I'm living the life you wanted for me, teaching kids who need someone to believe in them, married to someone who loves me, building a future, living fully." I traced his name on the headstone. "Thank you for choosing me. Thank you for showing me what love looks like in action. Thank you for being exactly what I needed when I needed it most. I hope I'm making you proud." The cardinal sang, clear and bright, before flying away. I stood, brushed off my jeans, and walked back to my car. Daniel was waiting at home. We were hosting dinner for friends. Life was happening, moving forward, opening up. As I drove away, I looked in the rearview mirror at the cemetery growing smaller behind me. Grandpa was there, yes. But he was also everywhere else. In the house he'd left me, in the lessons he'd taught me, in the person I'd become. He'd given me roots and wings, stability and freedom, a foundation and the courage to build on it. That's what real parents do. They give you what you need to fly, then trust you to soar. And I was soaring. Not perfectly. Not without struggles or doubts or hard days, but forward. Always forward. Because that's what Grandpa had taught me. That life isn't about the hand you're dealt. It's about how you play it. That pain doesn't define you unless you let it. That love is a choice you make every single day. He'd chosen me when he didn't have to. And that choice had changed everything. Now it was my turn to choose. To choose hope over bitterness. To choose love over fear. To choose to believe that even broken beginnings can lead to beautiful endings. I chose life. Full and messy and complicated and wonderful life. And somewhere I knew Grandpa was smiling.